Hi, this is G from Energyblendz, where it's all about the energy. And this is part 2 of an instructional video on how to make a piece combining energies that will support someone dealing with anxiety, fear, and worry. And what we did in part 1 was to put the wrap around the base piece, which is Sodalite, a stone of calmness and separation from emotional activity or emotional thought. And what we're going to do now is add the other spices or ingredients to our recipe. And I'm going to be taking this very small tabular quartz and adding it essentially right here. So in order to do that, I have to create a wrap that will give me 2 tails on the bottom and 2 tails at the top, so I can connect top and bottom. So what I did was I took 2 pieces of 24 gauge round sterling silver, and now I'm going to cut them in half. And what I'm going to do is connect them in such a way so that there will be 4 little tails. So I start by doing my basic 3 twists. The idea is to try to make it as even as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to be having extra wire anyway. And once I've done that, I now get to connect these 2 pieces. At the top portion, this is where the crystal is going to sit. And then I have my 2 tails at the bottom, 2 tails at the top. Now let's see if that opening is big enough to fit my quartz, and that should be fine. I'm going to do one more twist. This actually illustrates how making crystal jewelry is all about listening to the crystal itself. Everything you do is custom because you're allowing the wrap to be compatible with the piece that you're working with. Not only does that help with the visual aesthetics of the piece, but it also helps with the energetic aspect of the piece, because you really want it to be comfortable enough to be able to flow, to be able to do what it does best, which is to act as a channel for sending, generating, transmitting, whatever you're looking to do with this tool, with this energy conduit. And as you see here, we have created a little enclosure that'll make it easy to add this piece to the larger stone. Now again, why do I want to put quartz on here? Well, quartz is this all-around crystal, channels all the colors of the light spectrum, which means that when any specifically colored stone is added to quartz, the quartz is going to pick up on it. It will balance the energy, it will harmonize with it, but at the same time, it offers a clarifying element. Okay. So what I'm going to do here now is to lengthen these tails at the bottom so that I'm able to connect to this larger piece. Let's fold these back while we're doing that. Okay, this is perfect. So I don't need 2 tails anymore. So I'm going to wrap one of the ends around, clip off the excess, and then using my tweezers, I'm going to flatten down this little edge. And I try to make sure that there isn't anything sharp that could pull on clothing or scratch. And if there is, you can always go back later with a file and file it down. This tail is going to slide underneath, and now I'm simply going to wrap this around. The idea is to create a tight and symmetrical wrap that will anchor that portion of the added stone in place so that it doesn't move around, and at the same time look symmetrical, look professional, look good. I have enough of a tail that I can go to the end. Now if I didn't have enough wire to go to the end, then I would simply use that area of this wrap here and crimp it and give it a visual element. But since I have enough wire, I can go all the way to the end. I can still crimp this at the end if the piece needs to be tightened or if it will offer a certain amount of aesthetics. You know, we're making tools, but we want the tools to look pretty. We still want them to look nice. Okay, almost done. All right. Now, let's see where I want to go with this piece. Oh yes, this should be nice. I'm going to hold off on this until I get a better sense of what's happening. And I'm also going to make a little bit more room. We can make this neck, the neck of the piece, a little bit higher. So I have more room to add the other pieces. So let's get this out of the way. Now, I'm in the perfect place to add this right here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wrap the wire around once, cut it off, crimp the end, now how do I want to do this? I think I'll go up. Going up seems to feel better. I could have wrapped this down, but again, when you're working with crystals, the idea is to develop a dialogue with every piece you're working with. And that may seem silly because we're talking about stones here. But after you start working with crystals for a while, you will notice that there is some kind of an unspoken language between every piece you work with. You may have an idea for a design, but as you're working it, all of a sudden it just doesn't work. Something isn't right. The most obvious example of that is when the stone keeps popping out of the setting. Now you can fight with it and keep trying, or you can try to alter the setting slightly to get it in. But in the final analysis, piece is going to do what the piece is going to do. All you can hope for is that there is some kind of a cooperative relationship. Okay, so this is where we are so far. We still need to anchor on the bottom. I think I'm going to wait a little bit on this one just yet. What do I want to do with you? I think I want to bring you around the back a little bit. And since this part of the piece is a little back to the side, I think what I'm going to do in order to increase the support, let's see, oh, this feels much better. All right, I may not eliminate that one tail. I may connect this in both places. it's always important to make sure that the pieces you make hold up in normal wear and tear. And there will always be circumstances that you can't foresee, but the mark of any good piece is that if you're doing some kind of physical activity, it holds together. Now let's see how much wire I have to get to the end. I think I have enough to be able to get to the end. Now, when making handmade pieces, they're always going to have a handmade quality. It'll never look like a piece that's casted. And maybe that's a good thing. That there should be that element of uniqueness that makes it truly one of a kind. All right, you're not cooperating with me. Let's do that. What do you say? One more time? Can we get in there? I think this is enough. Cut off the end. Turn the little piece under. You can always go back later to make sure there aren't any sharp ends. Now, what to do with this guy? Well, we could do it the easy way and attach it in the back. It's a wonderful thing about the back of a crystal. I did a piece for someone I was working with years ago, and whenever he wore it, he turned what I considered to be the front of the piece in towards his body, always showing the back. So all of the work that tied the piece together to create the front, he exposed to the world. And I asked him about it once, and he said it's what the piece told him. It felt like it should be in towards his body and not focused outward. So depending on how you finish a piece, sometimes that gets a little problematic if the back of it isn't as neat and as clean as the front. And if that's the case, then you have to start strategizing. What do I want to do to finish this piece to make each side equally attractive, even though they're both going to be a bit different? Now, with this, I don't need to have so much, so I can clip off this extra wire. And so now all we have to do is finish connecting this last piece. And I think what I'm going to do is extend upward, because again I have one other type of crystal I want to add. I want to add some pink tourmaline, and I want to make sure I have a place to actually put it. Alright, let's see. Now I still have not yet figured out how I'm going to finish this piece, but I think this will be fine. So I'm going to again wrap around the end, clip off the excess, and flatten out the edge to make sure there aren't any sharp points. And since I'm going to finish wrapping this side, I'm going to get rid of this end and crimp down and flatten down the wire. I mean, that's one of the benefits of having a soft sterling. It's easier to mold the wire. And there should be more than enough wire to finish this side. This side of the void. Now we have two voids. So from a numerological perspective, 2 is a number of balance. It could be double strength or it could be double weakness, depending on how you confront and deal with challenges. With this piece, we're creating double strength. Because again, the Sodalite is going to allow us to step away from our fear component, to focus on the task at hand in a clear, objective, and rational standpoint. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to add a different, oh, I can get rid of you, can't I? Wait a minute, let's get rid of you. Let's get rid of all the loose ends, and then I can add the third component. The third component is pink tourmaline. And pink tourmaline is one of my favorite stones. One major reason is that it is a stone of faith. It's an amazing thing what faith can do. And through faith, we are in a better position to trust. With this kind of a piece, again, what is the purpose? To eliminate, to minimize anxiety and fear. So there is a need then to trust our choices, to trust our ability to solve problems. Okay. And so the pink tourmaline is going to enhance our ability to do just that. To have faith that we make the right choices, to trust that there is a higher power looking out for us, making sure that we are safe and that the choices we make will be for the best, the higher power, the highest good. All right. Now I'm going to take this off because I want to look at these pieces. I certainly have enough of the 24 gauge to add. And I do want to be able to add some gold-filled beads. So I've added only the one bead of gold at the end, because there doesn't seem to be enough room for two. And then it's just a matter of turning the wire around and mold it in the shape that we're trying to create. Is to finish the piece by adding a neck. I'm going to cut off the excess here. By adding a neck, and then doing whatever last minute crimping needs to be done to make sure that the piece will remain intact. So because this is a heavier piece, I'm going to make sure that there are at least 2 loops to be able to hold a thick cord or chain. And there are different ways of making a loop at the end to run a cord through. And sometimes it's simply a matter of what looks the prettiest or the most interesting. So what I'm going to do here is, again, wrap one tail around, cut it off, crimp the end, making sure that there are no sharp ends, and doing the same thing on the other side. When you have leftover wire, always save it. There are 2 things you can do with it. You can use it to make other pieces, or to simply add to an existing piece, or you can collect it all and sell it back to a scrapper. And this is what I will do on occasion. Now I got lucky. I didn't have to go online. I got the name of a scrap metal company, from my dentist, who sends a lot of his gold and silver fillings back. All right. So I have the one tail left. And I'm just going to bring it down to the end, cut off the excess, and wrap it around the loop that's there, the void, that one arm of the void. Alright, this piece is feeling very strong and very stable, which really was the point of designing a piece without movement, without physical movement, so that the element of stability is actually put into the design of the piece. Now I could have gone with a cut and polished piece of Sodalite as the base. I could have gone with a tumbled stone. And I have examples of those to choose from, but there was something about this raw piece, this chunk that's untouched from machinery, almost finished now. This is where it gets really interesting, because once you have all of the major elements in place, you can then look at the piece and see what needs to be tweaked to do what I call finishing, the finishing of the piece, crimping any wire to tighten the piece in the setting, the filing down of any sharp points, and then also to make sure that the lines of the piece are even. All right, so this is what we have. This is our anti-fear, anti-worry, anti-anxiety. And let's start crimping. Let's start tightening up, creating some other design elements. And then at the very end, you rub your fingers over the edges to make sure there aren't any sharp points that are standing up, like this one right here. Make sure this little quartz piece is in tight. All right, so here we have Sodalite for calm, unemotional, a more easy use of wisdom, quartz to amplify that aspect with clarity and understanding, and pink tourmaline to stimulate a sense of faith and trust and love. because always love is important for the absence of fear. And a little bit of gold, top and bottom, to stimulate action. What's the point of having knowledge if you don't use it? So this piece, as with all the pieces we create, can be found on my website, www.energyblendz.com. And I thank you for watching Combining Crystal Energies.